You want coming, Izzy? I love the background. Hello, hello.
Hey.
Yeah, she's one of the cool kids now.
There we go.
Official.
Nah, she's always been a cool kid. What are we talking about?
Well, she's part of the cool group now. Fine.
Well, okay, there we go. He's thinks, get it correct. Come on, Deason.
Hello, everybody else who has joined us. You don't have to come on video if you don't want to show us your beautiful faces, but say hello in chat. Let us know you're here. What's up from Dr. D? Jack!
Jack!
How's it going, Dr. Deason? It's been a
Doing
while.
well. It has been a minute. How have you been doing?
I've been taking biochem this semester, so that
Oh,
lets you know how it's been.
you getting through it though.
Absolutely.
That's good to hear. And then you still doing MCAT prep this summer?
I moved back my MCAT date to another year, so I'm probably taking a gap year to do more research. So,
Right on.
yep.
Sounds good. Well, we can chat more about that one of these upcoming days, but happy to have you with us. And yeah, you are one of our few folks who will get to see this 2 years in a row. So you'll have the
I know, right?
experience of like, wow, they really got it together between this year and last year. Or you'll be like, oh man, it really went downhill from last year. All right, so event two of White Coat Bound. So this is a series that is in its second annual run. We do not need my phone going off during this event about any of that stuff. Okay. So this is our event two of the series, and basically we take you through everything you need to know for in event one, getting ready for the MCAT or USMLE. How do you structure your general preparation? For event two here, we're getting into the first part of the application process, which is going to be writing personal statements. That slap, my rename for the year, trying to get across to you Gen Zers, you know. So yeah, I don't think I've ever described that before I wrote this title as like a way I would have a personal statement. But hey, it seems to have worked. We got more folks here this year.
There we go.
And then if you keep joining us through the series, we'll be going through the remainder of the primary application, how to prepare for and appropriately and efficiently respond to the slew of secondary applications that can come in sometimes, and you're expected to be like, return all of these in 2 weeks, and they're like, here's 8 extra essays that we want you to write for just our school. Go. So being able to prepare ahead of time for what those can look like, and then we'll be wrapping it up with interviews that intrigue, which is again carrying the same thread from this session through all of it, which is the whole idea of this process isn't just trying to show you have a resume that checks the boxes. What you're really trying to do in every one of these circumstances is both answer who you are, but also why are you here? Just in the most basic sense, you gotta be able to tell us, why do you want to be one of us? Why do you want to be a doctor? Please tell me it's something more than it looked cool on TV, or your parents want you to do it, or you think that's the best way to help people. Because if you say, I want to help people, the first follow up question is, then why aren't you becoming a nurse or a teacher? Are you saying they don't help people? If I really want to, go extra on you. So you got to be able to essentially, through this whole process, tell a story. And what I have found has brought my students the most success. So, side note, in case you've shown up here and don't know who I am or what I do, I run DDQX Learning, founder, CEO, lead educator, and admissions person. And essentially, I work with students one on one to help them grow into the white coat that they want to wear. Is how I kind of view it these days. And that doesn't involve, again, having to check some set of boxes. That involves being able to tell your story. So, joining me today is Andrew Paul, or AP McIntosh, friend of mine and representative of Next Generation John, who is an access equity nonprofit organization helping pre medical and medical students who maybe struggle with the affordability of market resources be able to get access to the advice and help and support that they need. And DDQX Learning is very happy to join them in this initiative. And, essentially, this isn't a marketing event. This is an hour and a half of my time and real talk to just give you as much advice as you can. I will reference what I do as a company and how, like, the resources and services I use, but ultimately everything I'm trying to tell you today is not to go buy my products, it's to help you tell your story. And the goal is for you to leave here at the end of the day with an idea of how you're going to do that. So before I monologue the whole time, hey AP, what's up, bro?
Broski. Hey, everybody. My name is Andrew Poe, AP for short. Jack, you remember me from last year because I was here for round one from last year. And for
How could
those
I
who don't
forget you,
know,
AP?
look, I could be a hoot. I could be a hooter sometimes. But for those who don't know me, again, AP here. Y'all are familiar with my work. I was formerly at King of the Curve as one of the co-founders. Been there for 5.5 years, and I've been involved in the ed tech space of being able to work with pre-meds like you guys in terms of getting out where you need to go because I've learned how difficult it was to actually go through this process to A, pass all the pre-med classes, and also B, go into the process of applying for med school. Right. So I've helped students write personal statements before and primary and secondary applications before. So there is a process to doing all of this correctly, and we tonight are going to show you exactly how to do it. Right.
If I could
Of
throw in
course,
one more quick thing about you, AP, so I don't
by
feel
all
too bad
means.
interrupting like out of the blue this time. AP also works to help startups and entrepreneurs tell their story. So very similar to how a med student, pre-med student is needing to tell their story. How do you think you convince people to invest in your company, you know, buy your products? It's all about being able to tell a story. And so I just wanted to include that AP is a big part of being able to do that, both in his former employment and he currently does that for startups as a consultant.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. So, I'm going to turn it over, and I think the first thing I want to discuss is before we dig in, because we like to make this interactive. This is not a lecture hall. Y'all know what a lecture hall feels like, right? This is an interactive session, right? So by show of hands, who has started writing their personal statement at all? Drafting it, thinking about it, cogitating over it? Show of hands or in the chat. Okay, Brianka, awesome sauce. All right, we got Lance, got Claire, we got Jenna. All right, we see. Look at that. We have such proactive students here. They're already starting this process. I'm so happy to see it. Right.
If you
Um,
haven't, why are you even here? Oh my god! Like, I'm just kidding, guys. No.
that's why we're here. We're here. It's okay if you haven't started. It's totally fine. But that's what we're here to cover, right? Um,
Exactly.
by any show of hands or type of the chat, because I'll be moderating both.
Hmm.
What is the number one difficulty that you run into when it comes to crafting a personal statement? It could be anything, even the most minute of things.
I'm curious to see what this group thinks. I know where my students typically complain. I mean, come to me for support.
I see. All right, so Destiny, it being too long, yes, there are word counts and character counts for a reason. We're. It's not a tweet, but it's not a tome either, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
It's in between of those. Structure, character limit, having the hook to draw the reader in. Okay, got
Hmm.
you, got you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I know for some folks, it's just where to begin.
Having too much to say, showing without telling, flow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a connected piece of writing. It is not islands just cramped out on a piece of text. You gotta Gotta make it all flow together from start to finish.
Absolutely.
Not
So,
repeating a resume. Yes,
yeah.
exactly, right?
Who here has
If you
heard
go,
of like the like core competencies for, medical students put out by the AAMC, and what the like ACGME says they're looking for in residents? Cool. Yeah. If somebody who's familiar with what I'm talking about wants to grab a link, like do a little Google search and grab the link to one of those, that is where I always tell my students to start first. Is basically, again, this should not be a repetition of your resume. I know AP will be talking about mistakes and stuff as we go through this, but that would be one of the biggest mistakes is trying to treat this as a series of here's the highlights of my resume. That's not the goal here. So, I don't know where we're at agenda-wise, AP. Before I get ahead of us, we've seen what folks struggle with. We will be touching on all of these things as we go. So, where are we going to go next, sir?
all right, we're gonna talk about, you know, a little bit about why personal statements matter. I know we gave a little bit of highlight before
Mm-hmm.
then, but I'm gonna elaborate a little bit as to why personal statement matters,
Why,
right?
yeah,
So
AP, why should I even care or put in the effort? Like, does this, I mean, my grades and like the MCAT are what they really care about, right?
yes, and also no. And
Ah,
I'm going to explain how that makes sense, right? So, obviously, for any med school program or DO school that you apply to, there are GPA requirements and MPAT requirements you have to hit. Like, they'll post it on the website of what the median student that's coming into
yeah.
the admissions class has stat wise, right? So, you want to make sure that you're at least at or above those to be considered for them. But, of course, AdComs or admissions committees can't let every single med student that applies to their programs into their institutions, right? They do not have the time, the resources, or the class sizes to have all of you lovely people come in. So how do we weed this down? Cue the process of applying to med school, right? Or a DO school, right? Whether using AMCOS or AMCOMOS. So the personal statement is part of this process. And as Deason and I have alluded to, the personal statement is a piece of writing that's designed to answer the question, why are you interested? You, the individual that is
Mhm.
applying, interested in medicine.
Yeah.
Not because it looks cool, not because you saw House. Yes, I do like House. Not because you saw Grey's Anatomy. Why are you, the individual, interested in medicine? Right? Because
Mhm.
what you're about to be embarking on is a journey. Going through med school, the 4 years of med school, in addition to getting into residency, is a journey. And you need to know up front, and they want to see that you thought this through, that you didn't just walk over bed one morning and be like,
Yeah.
I want to be a doctor. No. No. You got to think about this. So
Yeah.
that is what this piece of writing is there for.
We
Anything you
gotta
want to
know,
add, Deason?
yeah. I just want to add, we gotta know that you're willing to dig in deep when it gets tough. And that requires passion, like, not interest.
Notice he said when, y'all. He didn't say if it gets tough. He said when it gets tough. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And I think,
Summa
and I
cum
think it was,
laude, graduated high school at 16, college at 20, never struggled high school or undergrad. Certified genius. Hit the effing wall in med school because I didn't have the study habits other people developed who had put in some struggle and some skill development. I'm like, oh, I sit around in the lecture hall and listen to it, and it all kind of makes sense, and I piece it together, and then, I'll flip through some notes later, and I'm good to go. And then you get into medical school, and you're like, oh no, that's not working. They just keep saying more things to me every day. There's too much.
and then those things that they said yesterday build on the things you learned today, and we'll build on the things that learn
Yeah.
tomorrow. And you have to remember them all as
So,
you go through
yeah.
every single semester of med school. You can't just treat it like undergrad, be like, oh,
Yep.
we went through biochemistry. I don't need that anymore. I got through the class. No,
So, quick
you need all that.
caveat, one of the things that actually you want to show through your personal statement and application is you know what it's like to struggle. I just want to throw that out there. Is that something that anybody would have, raise your hand if you thought of that ahead of time, that you would want to talk about struggles or adversity through your personal statement? AP, what do you know about struggles and adversity?
I mean, question, right?
You haven't had my lived experience, buddy, okay? As a, successful, tall, white guy with blue eyes.
I know, right? That is true. But
Yeah.
I think probably to break that down, Jason, let's talk through before we dig into what a personal statement is. Let's talk a little bit more about what the structure of person. What does a personal statement even look like? What is the structure of a personal statement?
Yes. So I'm slightly annoyed by like the blinds just coming through. Can't seem to find my happy spot here. So if you see me keep moving back and forth, all right, and there we go. So here's my whole thing with the personal statement that has been helping my students succeed far better than my own personal statements did for me when I was going through. Because, hey, learning process, helping more people, it got better over the years at this. Who here loves to brag about themselves? Nobody, right? And that is the hardest line to try and balance when you're focused on trying to tell people about how good you are right now. So, Izzy, you've heard this from me before. The number one tip that right away is a game changer for everyone that I work with and have even mentioned this to is don't write about who you are. Write about who you're trying to become. Tell me about the Dr. Izzy that's made it. Who are you not even 5 years from now? Because as we both know, 5 years from now, you're still in fucking training. Lol. Oh, yeah. FYI, those might slip in every now and then if you're also new to our events. This is why Kaplan didn't put me on camera. Professionalism. Where's my white coat? Damn it. Forgot it again. Oh well. But anyways, number one, all of your whole, that is for the interview as well. Your whole process, tell me about who you're trying to become rather than who you are right now. Now, your whole personal statement, that shouldn't be the focus of it. Here, the way I like to do it is your intro, your hook, is planting the seed. And it doesn't have to be like the first time you heard about medicine as a concept, but give me like a key moment in your life where you're like, oh, this is a job that people do for a living, and that had this incredible impact on, if not myself, this person that I know. And that changed the way I saw what could be done with jobs. I didn't come from a family of medical practitioners. So when my older brother broke his back in a jet ski accident and had to get spinal repair surgery and go through 6 months of rehab to walk again, I learned what medicine could do to not only save but alter the course of people's lives. That's a hook. That's not my whole personal statement, but that's a hook right there. That's where the seed was planted. Then you're gonna pick a few different instances of where that seed was watered. And going back to those core competencies, I always tell my students to pick 3 or 4 of those core competencies that really you want to demonstrate about yourself. When they get to the end of my personal statement, my application, my interview with me, because we want to tell a consistent story across all of those things, I want them to view me as somebody who is curious, resilient, and maybe a little ingenuity because I come up with out-of-the-box solutions. I don't think ingenuity is one of the core competencies, but hey, just spicing it up off the cuff here. But those are the things I want them to know about me. So the other little stories I'm gonna tell through paragraphs 2, 3, 4 are events in my life that, reiterated this interest turning into a passion for medicine, but also allow me to demonstrate that about myself. When this happened in front of me, like, this is how I responded. This is the thoughts that went through my head and how it affected me. That's what we're trying to get across in these. And so, through a series of these mini stories, what you're trying to set up is a narrative arc of, this is where I got interested, these are the main things that happened along the way, and then you end with who you're trying to become. Everything I have been doing is in service of trying to become this person. Doesn't have to be a specialty. This person who can have a greater impact on their community that I've only seen these doctors in my life be able to do. That is an impactful story. Insert whatever your personal details into that sequence is. So I'll pause right there. AP, any insights? I would also be curious, Izzy, since you're on camera with us here, tell me a little bit about like your experience with the, trying to do a personal statement for getting into med school versus where you see yourself ultimately trying to go with a residency personal statement.
It's a good question. I feel like, so back when I wrote my personal statement for medical school, I I felt like, ironically, the thing that I was able to start with was a hook, that I felt like I was like, this is how I know I want to just start my story, because I felt like it was a good hook, but also wrapped or nicely tied together the other aspects of my story that kind of all culminated together. So writing that, I was in my gap year. I had a couple gap years, so I kind of synthesized together my experiences leading up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of talked about, same thing. I was first in my family to go to college, so
Right.
I wasn't always like, oh, I want to be a doctor. So I really wanted to show like, hey, I've explored other things and I know that I want to be a physician.
Mm.
So I wrote my personal statement, but I also really, at the time I was working in Tucson with a group of physicians, so I actually confided in those people to help review it and give
Mm-hmm.
feedback in terms of like edits. And I think there's that fine balance of having people provide edits and feedback,
Yeah.
while also just staying true to your own story. So it was definitely a process that had multiple like revisions until I
Mm-hmm.
felt comfortable with it. Um, and that was really just the overarching why medicine story, why being a physician specifically, because like you said, there's
Yeah.
so many other helping professions. But then now thinking ahead to when I will eventually write mine for residency, I think I'll kind of need to approach it similarly, but making sure my story is why this specialty
Yeah.
and why not any other specialty,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I'm interested in OBGYN. But really, if you like OB and GYN, you could be a family medicine doctor. You could do other things. So making sure I explain why that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know even when students are applying for away like rotations and stuff, sometimes they'll even want you to have something prepared of why that specialty or why this site. So I think
Right.
you have to be even more proactive and really know.
Yep.
And I think just being intentional with your experiences and your story is the best thing you can do. It's not about like quantity, but more so quality
Mm.
of your experiences.
Excellent point. It's not, you can take that one moment from when that thing happened to somebody in front of you, and you were just like in the room as a bystander. But, what you witnessed, what you felt, what you saw in the family, what you can demonstrate in terms of growth is really the point here. So thank you for sharing that, Izzy. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
AP,
All
where
right.
shall we take it from here, my friend?
Why don't we show the folks an example of a personal statement?
Hmm. Okay, okay. You're just gonna throw me on the spot here. Give me a
Yeah,
sec.
whoosh. Come on,
I
Deason.
did
We,
not.
we, we're a ninja.
Yeah, right? No, I know, and I already know which ones we're doing. I just hadn't had a chance to get them
Ah, you
pulled
good.
up ahead of time.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, celebrations, concerns as we go on? Y'all will get to know me and my personality soon enough as we go through this. Yes, Izzy.
I wanted to add a comment to Jennifer's question, how she said that she was thinking that for the interview. One thing that I didn't necessarily know until I interviewed was that, at least at my institution, there were people who volunteered to interview that didn't like see
Mm.
your your personal
Mm,
statement. They didn't see your secondary. They knew nothing about you. And I think a lot of, like we were talking about, that feeling of, oh, I don't like bragging about myself. It is very uncomfortable, but you kind of do have to rehash your qualifications and your story. Um, and the structure we had was a multiple mini interview. So I found
mm.
reviewing my personal statement and reviewing my secondary application, like essay responses, was really helpful as part of interview prep. So kind of, Jennifer, just keep that in the back of your mind of some people might not know your story and you might use it to like fuel the conversation when you are interviewing.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Izzy. That is very important. As you go through the med school process, we're talking about primary statements today, but we'll be talking about later in the series secondary statements and then the interview process, right? It's not always the same people who have seen all of these documents, their primary and your secondary, right? There'll be some people that'll be in the review process that have never seen anything that you've written before. And they'll be like, Dr. Izzy, tell me about you. And I'm like, oh shit. Oh no. They haven't said anything. It's like, have you
Yep.
looked at my first name? He's like, nope.
That
Secondary
happened
statement?
one
Nope.
of mine as well. I was like, "Oh, you don't know anything about me?" And really trying if you just end up rehashing your application, those interviews suck too. So, we'll get into
Mm-hmm.
that in the interview one. All right, I have version 1 of the personal statement that came into me, and I was just blacking out all of the personal info and location information. All right, this was for a residency program. So, one sec, I will rearrange my screens appropriately here. Boop, boop, boop. All right, so not a pre-med one because my most recent pre-med ones are still in the application cycle and I don't want to show off anybody's current stuff. But here is one for somebody who is looking to get into residency. AP, could you give us a read of it, please, and thank you.
Alrighty. I am writing to express my strong interest in your residency. After thoroughly considering my career objectives and aspirations, I am seeking to transition into a program that aligns more closely with my clinical interests and professional goals, particularly in occupational and environmental impacts on health. I'm gonna stop right there. What do y'all notice about that first paragraph? Anyone, chat or raise your hand. Tell me what you notice.
I will also say that the person whose personal statements these are is very thick skinned. Him and I already made 2 whole podcast episodes making fun of his writing. So nothing you write in here is, going to be offensive. Yep, yep.
Direct.
That is not a
Sounds like a
hook.
personal. Sounds like a personal email. Never say I'm writing. I'm gonna direct yes.
Hey, look who's here.
Are you serious? Oh wow! You did not time that. I swear. But yes, um, if you are writing a personal statement, it is assumed by the AdCom committee that you are interested in doing this program. So we don't really need to write you're expressing your strong interest. It's kind of assumed, so don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. And again, as you said, where's the hook? Where is the story that tells me the moment that the seed has been planted inside of you that makes you want to pursue this path? I don't see it in this first paragraph here.
Right. Exactly.
What
See,
else do y'all notice? Service level a bit. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you look at this first paragraph, I don't see a story. It's a direct statement of inquiry, yes, but I don't see a story to it. I we'll see how this develops in the second paragraph, right? During my time I've gained invaluable knowledge and experience in rural emergency medicine and the independence of the setting allows, and I'm eager to build on this foundation. However, there are other areas I'd like to develop which may be better suited to your program environment. I have a personal investment in OEM, though no official training, and would aspire to learn as much as possible during my time with you. Comments on the second paragraph from me first, right? Okay, you've gained invaluable knowledge at experience in rural medicine. Cool. Do you have a story? Any story from any of the hours, probably dozens or hundreds of hours you volunteered at this rural emergency medicine bit? Just pick one impactful story. Who did you work with? What were you doing? How did it affect you? How did it guide your development? I don't see any response to any of those things here. What would you add, Deason?
I would say that's all accurate as well. The way that I helped this individual is through what I call personal statement score reports, which is a tool I developed with my AI to essentially give it a quantitative score across several different dimensions. I'm looking to see right now if I can actually locate the original score reports that we did on this one. But we'll see if I can dig that up. Otherwise, we'll show the after we end up breaking this down.
All right, sweet. Anyone from the audience want to comment on this? From what you've learned so far, what do you observe?
I can give some input if you don't mind.
Sure, Bianca, give it a shot.
Yeah. So I used to write on a yearbook staff. And so one thing I try to do when I'm like starting a sentence or a new paragraph, I try to avoid using I a lot when I begin sentences. And it's just for diversity. So like when people are reading sentences, it, always starting the same way in terms of like the structure. And I think it makes the brain work a little differently if you're introducing an idea in a way they don't expect it. And so I think I would do something like that. Maybe rearrange some of the sentences so it's not starting with I. And he can even do something as simple in the third paragraph where it says, I understand that this program will be significantly different from my EM residency. He can say, he can start off saying, based off my experience at my EM residency, this program will be significantly different. So even something as simple as that can feel a little bit different. It's very subtle, but I think it does make a difference in terms of just like heightening the writing a little bit more.
I like that. Thank you.
Solid.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any additional comments you'd like to have based on what you're learning so far?
I have a question, not something
Yes, Jennifer.
additional.
What's
I
up?
was gonna ask if not, if you don't say I, well, also when writing reports, like for like Orgo Lab or some lab, they do also tell us to refrain from saying I a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but how would you go about trying to make it personal without saying I?
That's a great question. And, I think that when I show the after example here, that'll give us some key, like, exact moments that we can compare it to. But essentially, you just want to give, a lot more story and context and not just make it focused on just yourself and your experience and, your interests right there. So we'll show that when we come up in just a minute with the final version of how we made some of those changes.
All right. Let me move on to this third paragraph.
You
I
betcha.
understand this program will be significantly different from my EM residency, and I appreciate your consideration for your program would extend would extend an applicant to my situation. I am committed to furthering my medical training with as much diligence as I have shown so far. My decision to seek this transition is driven by a deep commitment to my professional and personal growth, as well as the realization that your program offers a better fit for my future aspirations. All right, I'm a pause. All right, comment. My initial first thought that comes to my head. When you're applying, whether it be for allopathic med school or DO school, when you're using experiences, adcoms are also running the assumption that you've actually volunteered, shadowed at, you know, did these things before, and you're not coming in with, I would like to do this thing, and you've just never experienced the context of things. So what I'm saying is this, right? If you are going to be, and again, don't put this in the med school context, right? If you're going to be going in and you're thinking of being, I don't know, doing cardiology, for instance, my expectation if I was an AdCom person would be like, hopefully you shadowed with a cardiac doctor,
Right.
or you've worked in those environments in some capacity before. So you get an understanding of what it's like, what they go through on a day to day, what the patient population looks like. So you're not coming in there blind, right? You don't say personal statement of residency either that you don't have any experience whatsoever in the thing, but want to do the thing anyway. It's the expectations you have some experience in it, so you have a better judgment as to is this thing right for you or not, and why. Decent.
Never name your quality. I work with as much diligence as I have shown so far. You demonstrate qualities, you don't name them.
I have no idea what diligence looks like in this context.
Mm-hmm.
It's just your word versus show
Mm-hmm.
me how are you diligent.
Yep.
Show me.
Okay. If you want to read 4, I can
Yeah.
show my score report, and then we'll show where we got this to.
Let's rock. All right, I am eager to discuss the opportunity to contribute to and learn from your team, both attendings and other hospital staff alike. I am confident that my background and skills will allow me to be a valuable member to your team. I look forward to further conversations, and answering any questions you may have. I have enclosed my curriculum vitae for your review, and I'm happy to provide any additional information you need. Thank you again for your consideration.
I will mention just real quick, this was like a fellowship application. It wasn't like the main app process, which is why it does read more like an email, but we are still, same idea. Let's just approach it the same way. Like, this is an overall personal statement. That's not how we close out, right? We don't need to reference our other stuff. You get, like, I've seen students do this too. Like, as you'll see in my work and activities, I really, but like, no, you don't. That's not what we're here to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts or contributions, AP or the audience?
I would say again, the thing, right? As we have said, and we're going to see this over and over again because repetition is how the mind works, right? Um, the personal statement. Say it with me, y'all. The personal statement is not a repeat of your resume.
Not repeat.
Do not do this.
Yep.
They can read your resume. They will have your AMCAS application. Do not repeat that here. Please don't. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So, here's how I break these things down. 1, I still, read it and talk to people and give them feedback and all of those traditional things that admissions consultant folks would do. But as I already alluded to, I developed what I call personal statement score reports. And essentially, I wanted to find a way to quantify the advice I gave to folks and the importance with any sort of made up number. I'm just going to throw that out there. The AI makes up the number for me. I'm less concerned about the number itself and the trend in that number as we go through drafts together. So the 7 things that I focus on and what I'd advise you focus on yourself is, of course, having a strong introduction, solid narrative coherence. Like I mentioned, you're trying to tell a story through this process. And here, I'll drop this link in the chat as well if anyone wants to review this in more detail later. The strength of your conclusion. But then, apart from that, the emotional engagement, the professional development you demonstrate. So again, that's where the resilience comes in. Teamwork, leadership, understanding. It's not enough to just be like, I have high scores and good grades. You know, show us that you're ready to be a professional. How well does your application, your personal statement, resonate with admissions committees? So I do check alignment, like, hey, those were some interesting stories, but I'm not really picking up the thread of like what that has to do with becoming a doctor. So that's what we're checking on there. And then ending with overall readiness. So here is what we got for the first time around. Introduction. I can make this a little larger for y'all. Introduction was a 42 out of 100. Clearly stated interest, strength, but a little formulaic, lacked emotional engagement, distinctive hook, something we needed to work on. The narrative coherence, it had a logical flow, but, the transitions felt abrupt, and we didn't really tie these experiences to any motivations here. The conclusion, not too strong, reiterated interest and expressed eagerness to engage, but it was perfunctory and it didn't give a theme or a lasting impression. I know that's the hard part. It takes a little thought for that part. But you want them to walk away from your statement thinking about you in a positive way or an engaged way more than the other ones they've read that day. Because FYI, the person who reads your personal statement is going to be sitting there reading a bunch of personal statements that day. Emotional engagement clearly was lacking. I don't have to get into the details there. We didn't show professional development from those experiences, alluded to, situation, but not any experiences. So it wasn't going to resonate, and it didn't show readiness. So overall, we did not like where that one was at. That was the general consensus of the team here, of team being you guys. And so let's show where we got this to. Oh, wait, whoops, this one doesn't have his info blacked out yet. AP, buy me some time.
All right. Y'all got any additional questions up from what we've covered so far? I promise y'all, if there's anything my high school IB chemistry teacher taught me, it is the more you do it, the easier it gets. I promise you. No one comes
There
out the
was
room.
a
Yo,
Oh,
go.
sorry, AP. There was a question from Dashir in the chat of how would you know if a program is for you in residency? Do you visit the school? Is it based on the specialty you want? So basically,
Oh,
how do you find
that was
ones you're
actually a
interested
question.
in?
That was actually a question. Thank you, Izzy, and thank you, Deshir, for the
Yeah.
question. I think, from my experience, and I'll have Deason add on to this, how do you find a program that is right for you? First and foremost, for any program that you're interested in, right? You should have some iota of experience already. Whether again, that's shadowing at the institution, shadowing at like at a clinic or shadowing, in an operating room, what have you. You should have some level of interest so there's some real world experience you could pull from to inform whether this is for you or that's not for you, right? Also, being able to go on their website, program's website, and read about the program. What is it about? Where is it, right? Is it in state? Is it out of state? Because that's a real thing when it comes to cost, right? What do they have? What are the class sizes like? Do you do better in small environments or large environments? Like all of these things, you need to look into them because every student's different. Some people thrive in, large bustling environments. Some students need more intimate environments to thrive in. I was the small crowd environment, 300-person lecture hall could not do it for me. So I had to be like, I need something that's like 20 people here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When it comes to a residency program, you're only talking about groups of like 12 to 15 people, let's say, for emergency. Other ones will be, if it's like internal med, there can be, I don't know, a couple dozen folks in the program. More subspecialties can only have like a handful of folks in the program each year. So when it comes to residency, first differentiator is going to be the specialty that you're going into. You have to know what specialty you're applying to. A lot of times before you even get a chance to rotate in it. If it's anything other than a bread and butter, like one of the common 6 core rotations in third year. Otherwise, you're going to be taking it as away rotations in fourth year, and guess what? You have to pick which specialty is going to be those rotations in your fourth year, put them first in your fourth year so you can get the letters, and you've already started the application process at that point. So it's a really weird catch-22. I had to know I was going into emergency medicine and apply to emergency medicine before I was starting that and committing to that process before I had rotated in emergency medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, I had been a paramedic. Shocker. I was like, I think EMS works just fine for me. But the main goal you're going to be trying to answer for yourself through your first 2 preclinical years is what specialty is right for me. You don't have to decide that before medical school. You do not need to go into medical school interviews and applications pretending like you know what specialist you're going to be. That is a good way to get yourself laughed out of the room unless you have a really freaking serious story about why it's that specialty. But if you're just like, I would be a great cardiologist, like, you don't know that, and you don't know that that's what you're going to commit to, so don't try to tell us that. Just, go into med school knowing you want to be a good doctor who has this sort of impact. In your first 2 years of medical school, you try and speak with specialists of different varieties. Most med schools do a good job of getting different specialists in front of you, getting you some opportunities to hear from them about what their day-to-day is like. That's the most important thing about specialties. Not what they could see, what the coolest possible things they could do are. What do you do 95% of the time? That's what I want to know. What does your everyday look like? And do I want to do that tens of thousands of times over the duration of the rest of my career? That is what you'll have to figure out in the first 2 years. Once you know the specialty you want to go into, same as medical school, some of it comes down to geography and your numbers on step 2 CK. And if you do have any kind of performance tracking in your preclinical years, how you compare to classmates. So those kind of things will still kind of set the bar of what specialties will consider you and what locations within that specialty will consider you. EM, emergency medicine in a major metropolitan area, which is where I wanted to practice. It's a lot steeper competition than rural EM programs in the middle of Montana or Alaska. Not too, hard to, get into some of those programs compared to the same specialty. So you'll be looking at how well you compete against your peers on some of those stats. But then also every residency, just like every medical school, has stuff that they particularly are passionate about and prioritize, and they talk about that on their websites. Start there, see what they care about the most, and see if that resonates with the kind of person you're trying to become. You're really looking more for where you're going to thrive the most rather than where you could go that has the most prestigious name or title. And that, I think, is the most important advice that I could share with folks. All right, so here is where we took this to. A Tuesday night, like most nights, seeing my 8th patient of the day and 3rd trauma victim, an autoped MBA, a home DIYer with a self-inflicted chainsaw injury, and a local industrial worker with a persistent shortness of breath after a standing fall on site. Each case a stark reminder of how our work environments shape our health outcomes. A rural emergency department, though busier than most would suspect, still left me with time for introspection and analysis. This is when I realized that my passion lies at the intersection of clinical medicine and the environmental factors that influence health long before patients reached the ED doors. All right, what do you guys think of our new first paragraph?
Thank God there's a story.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Nice. We got a good hook. This is like, no offense to my buddy, this is like the least punchy personal statement I helped with that entire year. So if you guys like this one, oh, I can't wait to showcase some to you guys next year once these folks are in their programs. Because, whew, I finished one and gave it to my girlfriend and she cried. And I was like, wow, there's my empathy check now. That doesn't happen to me personally anymore. I've seen enough things that I'm not going to read somebody's story and start crying. But I'm like, so now I give her all the personal statements and I'm like, hey, can you tell me, babe, how much like feels does this give you? All right, so we like the hook. We've got the start of a story and it's starting to give us a reason, a why. This is somebody already in EM, but is wanting to talk about occupational stuff because they're seeing a pattern. I'm already picking up on that in the intro without just directly stating it, right? That's the biggest change here. Nothing is like too directly stated. I mean, we still said like his passion lies at this intersection, but still, again, we're focused on just like, that's my passion. That's what I'm working towards. So now let's expand upon that. My journey to medicine was unconventional, to say the least. While many of my colleagues followed well-trodden paths, I found myself navigating uncharted territory as I simultaneously pursued an MD, MBA in healthcare administration, and now a PhD. This multidisciplinary approach reflects my belief that the most impactful healthcare extends beyond the clinical setting, and I believe better alights my personal philosophy with that of occupational and environmental medicine. I don't know if that's the word we were going for or not there, but what do we see in this? This is how I like to reference my resume. I will only tell you about things I've done in the context of something else. I won't be like, oh, after medical school, I went to Kaplan and worked there as a content manager for 5.5 years. I'll just be like, what I really learned during the 5.5 years I spent at Kaplan, working directly on this as a content manager was that blah, 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 blah. You guys see that difference just right there? And I only bring something up if it's either one, a relevant experience, which, to be honest, most of us are missing in these instances, right? Except for that little bit of clinical expertise or exposure you go get. Most of the stuff you're going to talk about isn't relevant experiences so much as, number two, that you have a transferable skill or quality that is going to help you do well in this new role. So that's what we want to bring in. Be like, oh, well, this guy's, didn't follow the beaten path. Number one, is that a bad thing? Who here thinks like there is a correct road to medical school or residency, just by show of hands? I'm curious. I know we see a lot of language out there about the traditional path still versus non-traditional path. Yeah, but that's the truth, is there are many roads. And I think that's respected a lot more nowadays than when I was first applying to medical school and looking into this stuff 20 years ago. I still feel so funny saying that stuff. I know, guys. 20 years ago. So when I was looking into this, it was like, I really felt like it was just the numbers. You know, can I pull my 3.9 to 4.0? Can I crush that MCAT? Can I do the research and leadership and show I belong there? But even back then, I didn't get in the first time because that's how I approached it. I took 4 years off. I went and worked in EMS. And when I came back the second time, I told stories. And I was like, oh, I know, like, I can get through that kind of thing because I went through this kind of thing. That's what we're doing when we're referencing the stuff we've been through. And the most boring story nowadays is the traditional story. And I never stop telling those stories. It's so true, Chase. That's why people keep telling me to make videos instead of writing content. They just want to see my face and hear my voice even more. I know it. Thank you for reminding me of that, Chase. So,
Let's see.
yes.
Oh, Izzy. Let's see. That paragraph provides context for a desire to switch from EM to OEM. It also highlights his expertise and life experience. He knows what he wants and helps answer the readers who might be questioning why OEM or why this applicant / why now. Yes, Izzy. Exactly.
Love that. Thank you. So, paragraph 3. During my time in EM, I've gained invaluable experience in managing acute presentations and developing clinical independence. However, I've increasingly found myself drawn to the factors affecting my patients' health outside of the clinic. The workplace exposures, environmental conditions, and organizational structures that ultimately determine who ends up in my emergency department and why. Okay, how do we like this one? Me, still more direct than I go for. I'm a meanderer. You'll infer it. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I really, really like it. Like even just first glance,
Yeah.
the fact that I don't know, I'm just like weird like this, but the fact that I don't see I everywhere, I'm like, oh my God, this must be a good story, like automatically, just visually. And so I even like the fact that he brought in the content creator stuff because I think right now a lot of people are afraid to kind of expand on that. But he's shedding light on how you can do it in a responsible manner
Yeah.
and incorporate that into your practice to help patients and also further make connections with other people in healthcare. And I think that's really vital. So I really do like how it came out at the end.
Awesome. You got a little ahead of us, Priyanka, but I appreciate you.
Sorry.
No worries. But yeah, this is where, like, we're still saying I. This is still first person, but notice we didn't, like, start with this is about him. This is some things going on. This is when I realized my journey, blah, 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 I. Like, they're still here, but it's not I this, I that, I want, I am, I blah, blah, blah. We are leading with context, making, oh man. Thank you, Priyanka. I'm forgetting some of my English grammar stuff, but making, like, two-part sentences here.
Or making
No.
complex sentences
Thank you.
and compound sentences. Grammar. Hello, hi.
No,
Not
thank you. I have to hop off, but I really appreciate that. Hopefully I can, I don't know if you're going to record it, but hopefully I can
Yes, we
learn
got
more
it. We
later.
got you, Brianna.
We will,
We
and
got
I
you.
swear, guys,
Thank
I'm
you.
just still trying to figure out how to best put these up, like, with a little bit of polish, because I have one done as well. I didn't want to just, like, whole load it up like I did last time, so I'm like, how can I just at least, intro, outro it? We'll get them up soon. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Night.
All right, so let's see what we got here for these last two, and then we can fully just talk about the rest. So what distinguishes me from other applicants? Again, still a little more direct than I go for, but we're still getting context here. What distinguishes me from other applicants is my extensive background in medical education. As a content creator, podcaster, and educator, I've dedicated myself to making medical knowledge more accessible and engaging. I've conducted over 150 interviews with healthcare professionals and educators, developed and refined teaching methods, and built platforms that reach thousands of medical learners globally. This educational expertise represents a core competency I bring to your program and demonstrates my commitment to knowledge sharing. So one thing that I do want to highlight here before I read the last paragraph is you have to show programs what you can add to them. It seems almost unfair at first because we come in like, there's so many boxes to check. I've checked all the damn boxes. Will you let me in now?
No.
No. And it's like, oh, why? Well, now that you've checked the boxes, what can you add to our program? So that's like one extra thing to just give thought to. And that's where your own story and your road helps. I was a teacher and educator as well as EMT and paramedic. So I put those two together and said, I am really wanting to get involved in simulation education. And from day one, I can show classmates how to intubate, how to start lines, how to read ECGs nowadays. Because those are things I did every day well, not every day with intubations. My God, things would be going wrong if I was intubating somebody every day. Sorry, distracted myself there. But yeah, those are the things I had experience with. That's what I would bring unique to this program to help the other folks through it, to make it more than it already is by just a little bit. Because again, we're not super bragging like, I can overhaul your program. Be like, okay, go home now. But if you're like, this is how, I love what you guys do. This is what I'm passionate about. And I think I could just help push that needle a little further. That's what we're going for here. All right, my interest in OEM extends beyond traditional clinical practice. I'm fascinated by the interplay between workplace dynamics, environmental exposures, and public health outcomes. This holistic perspective has been shaped by my diverse experiences both within and outside medical settings. So again, tying his story and his meandering at first glance really towards all these different experiences. Let me see things from these different angles. So the university's OEM program represents the ideal environment to channel my varied experiences into a focused career path that addresses the complex intersection of work, environment, and health. I am eager to contribute my unique perspective to your program while gaining the specialized training that will allow me to make a meaningful impact in this vital field. Again, notice the balance of I have experience, I can bring something, but I'm humble enough to recognize I will be learning and growing through this process. And again, we're finishing with who we're trying to become and what we're trying to ultimately do. And how this process, this specialty, this program at this point is what's going to be my best bet towards taking the next step towards becoming that individual. What I would leave you with, I know we're not at the end, but I'm just, since we're at the end of this personal statement, no, well, I'm done for the night. That's it. Mic drop. What I would leave you with is that the personal statement should leave that reader almost wanting to like reach out and give you the helping hand to get to that next step. Like, if I can have them be like, dang, this person has been through some stuff and they are trying to turn all of that into making this pretty unique and interesting impact. This is pretty cool. I would love to see how this person continues to develop and grow, and would love to see how they do that here. So I'll go ahead and give it a pause there and open it up to anybody else's comments or feedback about where we ended with this statement.
I think one of the biggest improvements of this statement is that through the power of narrative, there now exists a
Laughing
cogent
my ass.
reason why this person's applying for this residency program
Sorry,
as a
I just
as a pro.
realized the name of the document was his name the whole time.
Hey,
Love you, Chase. Like I
slackness.
said, that's why I picked Chase and not a student, because we already made 2 podcasts together making fun of his writing and how far we brought it along. So I was like, if I screw this up, which I probably will last minute because I know myself, uh, I'm only blowing that guy's identity. All
See,
right.
this is why I'm the MC. This is why I exist. Um, but I think another thought too. Oh, hold up, we got some commentary. What we got going on? All
Compelling
right,
argument
compelling argument
achieved.
achieved, Jinx. Um, yes, that is what we need. That is the thought process that needs to hit any person that reads your personal statement, especially an admissions committee member, is that there's a compelling argument. This person actually did think about why they want to go to med school. They didn't just roll out of bed and like, okay, so I'm gonna use this example because it's me and it's one of my favorite movies of all time. Legally Blonde, the 2001 edition, right? Anyone seen Legally Blonde? Um, our protagonist Elle Woods and how she woke up one morning and decided to go to Harvard Law. Right? No experience in anything that would require you to go to Harvard Law, like being
That's how
doing
Chase
law
decided he
club.
wanted to become a doctor,
Like, no,
actually.
no, you can't do that. The Elle Woods phenomenon, in terms of waking up and deciding to just do a graduate level profession, kind of doesn't work in the real world. So keep that in mind. Love Elle Woods though. Love her though.
Indeed,
And
it
yes, it
does
is a great
not.
move. But yes, I think let me see my beautiful, lovely,
We don't need.
splendid.
I'm not reading that out loud, Chase. Stop trying to get me in trouble.
Oh gosh, heavens! I'm just not. I'm just yeah. No. Anywho, so now, you know, you talked about we've talked about why a person statement matters. We've talked
Yeah.
about storytelling and why that matters, right? And we've seen the pitfalls, the don'ts,
Mm-hmm.
right? When it comes to personal statement writing, being generic, the excessive use of the pronoun I. If this sounds like a scratched record, please don't do it. No one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that. We talked about the importance of not rolling out of bed and saying, "I want to be a physician." We need thought, compelling, cogent, narrative thought as to why we want to do this. All right. So I would say, can anyone articulate to me now, after an hour of this informal lecture? That's not me, Izzy, or Deason. Why a personal statement, or Chase, why a personal statement is important. I'm going to test y'all on your knowledge. I was an education major before I switched to common psych, so I know how this works.
That's the truth right there.
Anyone. I know y'all learned something. I
Yeah,
know y'all
no
can
worries.
talk.
I'm curious, does anybody, yeah, it tells your individual unique story. And, thank you for adding that, Jana. It's, again, there isn't a right story that you're trying to tell here. It doesn't have to be about all the successes. It can be about a setback as well, but only as part of your essay. Your essay should not be a woe is me, nothing ever goes my way, please let me in. There can be like, hey, this is how I became interested in medicine. I started on this path, and this is where I ran face first into a brick wall. This is what I learned from it. This is what I changed. And look, I came back. I'm still here. I didn't let that setback discourage me, and I still want to do this. And now I know that if something like this is going to set me back in the future, I've got skills to deal with it.
So remember when you said, or when Deason said at the beginning of this lecture, that when you struggle with medical school, I
Yep.
emphasize the when for a reason.
Yep.
Because again, one of the things I have noticed in just being in the pre-med med sphere for as long as I have is that all of you, and I sincerely mean this, all of you are intelligent and bright students
Yep.
that are typically at the top of your class. Not if not A's and B's, probably straight A students
Yeah.
at your undergraduate institutions, right? So it's like,
That's
sorry,
why
we
those
blog Gates
Reddit
came in.
folks scream into the void about how unfair it is because they're like, I got the grades and I got the score. Why won't any of them let me in? It's rigged, I tell you. It's all rigged. Because they don't slow
Conspiracy.
down to tell a story. They just are
Exactly.
like, I checked all the boxes, let me in.
Exactly, right? And I think one of the thing I was getting at is this idea of if you have struggled in undergraduate and survived, congratulations. If you have not struggled in undergraduate, also congratulations. I will 100% be a betting man and go to Vegas right now with whatever I have on me and bet that you will struggle in med school. Not as a testament to your character, not as a testament to your intellect, none of those things. It is a testament to the sheer volume of information. It is like being shot
Yeah.
with a fire hose of information. Every single class lecture you go there.
I
Decent.
was a biochem major, so biochem didn't hit me like it hit my classmates. We went through like my biochem 461 class, like first semester biochem, in 3 days of medical school. It was just like, these are the pathways and the substrates and the enzymes. Next. This is the next pathway and its substrates and enzymes. Next. And it's, you have to learn how to be able to look at so much and be like, what do you really want me to know out of this? How can I layer that on top of what I already do know? And how can I take a reasonable guess at everything else? As Izzy knows from working with me, we're all about the strategic guessing.
I was in the word strategic. But yes, Jennifer, you had a question. Should we add those struggles in our statement, or will they ask us there during the application or interview? So, I would say firstly, and
Go ahead,
Deason,
AP.
you add on to it. Yes, but remember, the idea behind the struggle is not the "woe is me, nothing is going wrong." Like, no, don't approach it like that. Don't ever, ever, ever approach it like that, right? Again, think about what an AdCom committee is looking for. Every single human being known to man has had struggle, has had setbacks before. The important thing that you're going to demonstrate, regardless of where you end up and what you do in medicine, is that you're able to move past that. Because think about it, it's medicine, right? You have people that have had serious things happen to them. You're going to have people die on you, possibly, right?
Oh,
Like,
you
you
will.
have to be able.
I've seen everything from a newborn baby to a 99-year-old die in front of me. That is the reality of medicine. That's the other reason I tell people to start therapy before medical school and before clinical rotations. It's because you're going to see a high level of trauma and you should have the skills to cope with it. Don't wait till you're behind the curve and are like, oh my gosh, what is it? This is what it's like? Because when one of those patients dies, you have to be able to give it a little space and feel it, and then go see your next patient. Day doesn't stop. That's the hardest part. Nobody gets to call out for the rest of the shift because that was a heavy emotional toll. So deal with that. Get therapy now. Build skills for dealing with trauma because you're going to see folks die. You're going to do crazy stuff. I sawed a person's leg off. Because you never know what's going to be needed in a situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was still when I was a medical student.
Oh, wow.
That's what having paramedic experience ahead of time allowed me on clinical rotations. They're like, all right, you've been around the block. You're not going to, like, freak out on me halfway through sawing this person's leg off, go for it. They just told me the number one rule was if you start, you don't stop.
I think my imagination can tell me what happens if you do stop mid procedure. So
Right?
yeah, I understand why once you start, you just go on through. Okay, that makes sense. But yes, to answer your question, Jenna, like
Yeah.
you should add those struggles, but in a way of addressing your struggles in this way, right? I'm struggling, cool. What did I learn from it? How is it going to help me become the physician I want to become? That is how you answer that, right? What if I'm currently struggling right now?
How are
That's okay.
you're still showcasing that you're somebody at this point of the application who is able to deal with a higher level of stress and,
Yeah, the
demands
average
on your
person.
schedule than the average person. You're showing that you're going through the process of developing those skills. I wouldn't focus again on leaving it with struggle. Struggle
Hmm.
has to be, I mean, just
A
think of
means,
like if you're an author and you're telling the story of your character, how shitty would a movie or a book be if it just ended with the protagonist in the worst of it? I mean, other than cliffhangers, like end of series, like nah, that's it. It ended like that.
bro. Legally Blonde would not be good if I just saw Elle just cry about Warner leaving her and not her becoming a badass lawyer at the end of the film. It would be a great cult classic film. Like no one wants to see that.
Yeah.
Boo.
So again, struggle is to show the growth through adversity, and on beyond that, my heart goes out to anyone who's in a really tough space mentally right now. Again, do seek help. Medications and therapy are game changers. Don't wait until you are so far in the hole that you can't see your way out of it. Or if you're feeling like you are in that place, it's not going to stay that way. I've been there. I spent years in some of those places at times until I took steps day by day and coped up, not coped up. That almost sounds like I was coked up, right? I just got coked up and all my problems went away. No. Just learning to cope with what was happening in that given moment, give it some space, but then figure out, okay, now what? That's the biggest difference is stuff's gonna happen, but okay, now what is the mindset. Addressing therapy in the personal statement, a good thing or a red flag. That's one I would probably stay away from directly commenting on. Which I hate to say, because I don't believe there should be any stigma around mental health.
Concurred.
But that being said, we are in an application process, and we do not know who is on the other end of that application. I can bring
Correct.
something up to somebody in an interview if I feel like the moment is right. I'm not going to lead in my personal statement that I've been therapized through some
Hmm.
things. I'll just focus on the growth and resilience rather than where I grew those skills per se.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because what I've learned through my school's admissions process is like some people on the committee that help review applications are like no longer practicing, they're retired, they're from a different time. So
Mm.
like you just don't know who's gonna read your stuff, and as unfair as it is, you know what you bring to the table and you know all the value you bring, so you wouldn't want someone to write you off prematurely by having that documented in there. But I agree, like once you are interviewing and you just like pick up on that vibe, then I think it's a great way to demonstrate help-seeking behavior. Because when stuff does get hard in medical school, then you'll know how to navigate the support that you need.
And we've already talked about how when you will struggle in medical school, I'm going to put this in the residency context for you guys. I was applying for EM. I had already been a paramedic, so I had already seen the shit. I'm going to use some words in the next minute here. I had already seen it. I knew how to handle it. I was in charge of scenes and people where things were going wrong.
Oh.
So, if you don't have that experience directly, what I want to know about you, if you're like, let's just say I'm an admissions person for an emergency medicine program, or even I'm just a resident in that program and I'm interviewing you, if you're the one that's next to me, when something goes sideways with one of our patients, when something doesn't go according to plan, when despite our best efforts, treatments fail, and the standard algorithm isn't working, I need to know how you react when shit hits the fan. Just straight up. Coming from somebody who was in EMS, like, I want to know, what are you going to do when somebody starts coding in front of us out of nowhere? Which you're not going to explain to me if you just tell me about all the great things that have happened in your life. And again, this is very specific for EMS residency, but ultimately, I want to know, what do you do when things don't go how you thought they would? When it's harder than you anticipated? When what you know how to do already doesn't work? That is what you are trying to demonstrate when we talk about growth through adversity and resilience. Because again, no matter what your skill set, the path you're laying out in front of you is gonna have struggles. It's gonna have trials and tribulations, or whatever your favorite words are. There's gonna be times you're crying because you just can't make sense of how you're putting in your best effort and you don't see the results you want to see. And you've got to go back from a metacognitive level and look at it differently. What am I not understanding? What's missing from this picture? What do I need to do differently? How do I need to behave differently? Do I need to get up earlier or study a little longer? Or do I need to stop treating myself like an automaton and give myself some breaks and spaces between things so I can actually process? It requires being able to adapt and adjust, and there won't be any one right answer, which is why I coach and I don't tutor students. You are going to hit the fan. You're going to struggle. I try and help people figure out, what are we going to do now? So that is what you want to show through not only a bit of your personal statement, but your applications and interviews, is I'm somebody who can adapt and adjust. I know what it's like to have a plan and to put in my best effort and to have things not go as I foresaw them. And this is what I did after that, so that, when something comes up next time, I can handle it better. And that's what I kind of want to just end on for the night. So I will pass it back to you, AP, if there's anything agenda-wise or if there's any final questions.
Alrighty. First and foremost, before I end, does anyone have any final questions, comments, concerns, thoughts? All of the above, or none of the above? Going once.
Maybe they're typing. We gotta, We're not in a live class here. They can't be like, oh yeah, I got one. So we'll see.
That is true. That did be true. Let me see.
Thank
here.
you, Jana.
Thank you. See, I love that, y'all.
I appreciate
You're very,
that.
very
Again,
welcome.
these aren't meant to be like, I did Kaplan like AdCon admissions consulting events where it's like, here's the rubric, here's the, script of what we're going through, and here's what you could buy from us. I have a website. You guys know where to find me. This is about real talk and, what you can take away from this free time.
Correct. Like the reason why we do this, and I'll say this every episode, so you're gonna hear me record scratch probably like 5, 6 times, right? This is designed to help y'all because either we've been in this position where y'all at now, or we have worked with people who have been where you're at now and helped them
Yeah.
get to the other side, right? And we want to see y'all succeed. Genuinely, we do. That is why we're doing this. And
Yeah.
also, as I said before in episode 1, you'll get out from this session, this 90-minute session, what you put in. That is why I ask and I poke and I prod and I pester. Do y'all have any questions, comments, concerns, all of that? Because I'd rather you answer and say that now in this environment when you
Mm-hmm.
have Brandon Deason here than you do this during an MMI or you choke on a personal statement. Get the help here now rather than out there.
Yeah. I laughed at my personal statement from the first application when I came back the second time. It was 4 years for me before I decided to apply again. So you guys talk about a gap year. I took a gap 4. So when I came back, I literally laughed at my personal statement and was like, "Oh, you sweet child of summer." Like, what a cute little resume you wrote into a personal statement. And I looked at my work and activities and I'm like, thank you for telling me what a treasurer does when you talked about your time as a treasurer. I had no idea what a treasurer meant. Lovely.
All right. Oh, you got a question. What is the most compelling thing you have read in a personal statement that changed the way you read personal statements? Correct, Izzy. I mean, it's in the name. It's in the name. So, like, duh.
I'm trying to think back if there was a particular example that I saw that finally resonated with me. But I don't think it came from personal statement writing. What actually was the light bulb moment for me was when I was doing additional training on LinkedIn Learning. So I have like the pro version. You can go do little courses on whatever that people have thrown up there. And it was a course on executive presence. And so, so obviously when I meet with people who have lots of money, guys, I try a little bit harder, one more button, a little bit of schmutz in the hair, maybe put on a nice watch instead of this stuff. Yeah, little shit. But, the executive presence stuff in that video is where they said, don't tell me about what your company does. Like, don't lead with what you did before your company. Don't lead with what your company does right now. Lead with the company that you're becoming and the impact you're going to have. And while I say with the personal statements, you don't always have to lead with it, that's where I'm ultimately driving everything towards. That was the game changer for me, was stopped looking at everything as future or as present tense and looked at it towards the future tense. Because as soon as I switched that in my brain, I don't have to try and brag about everything my company does right now. Because especially when you're a startup, I mean, a lot of stuff's in place now than if you had talked to me a couple years ago when I needed to act like a lot more things were in place than they were at the time, maybe, because that's part of being an entrepreneur. But, you learn to sell them on your vision. And I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do a bit here as well. You're selling them on your vision of the doctor you're going to become. And then again, you're referencing everything you've done along the way to try to become that person. And you can brag about that future. Like, let me tell you about the Dr. Deason that's transformed medical education by taking what cost thousands of dollars traditionally in one-on-one advice and finding ways to disseminate that to all students in an equitable and accessible way. I'm trying to live up to that aspiration every freaking day. Do I feel like I'm doing it right now? No. That's what keeps me motivated, though, to keep pushing forward and to keep doing better. And so learning to contextualize that to folks and being like, I am going to be the person that accomplishes this because I'm not going to give up on it. I will transform medical education because I've already been here 4.5 years doing it, and I figured out at least how to do it well enough to keep my freaking bills paid, so nobody can make me go away. Nobody else owns a substantial part of my company. I don't have investors or private equity that I'm accountable to because I bootstrap my way here. So nobody can shut me up this time. Nobody can say, you're not the one we're going to put on camera. No, we don't want to put all those things you developed out for free. We're going to keep them behind the paywall, which is the other thing I constantly tried to do at my former employment was like, but if we just gave them this stuff, then they would like, enough of them would come to for like more stuff that you guys would get money, right? And they're like, nah, we're okay. They can pay us for stuff. And I'm like, damn. I tried, guys, but nobody else was willing to do it. So I made my own company so I could give you as much shit as I can for free. And speaking of, again, as always, I haven't prepared the damn prizes ahead of time and the ability to just do the prize wheel on the fly. That is my goal one of these days. But I will follow up as I did the first event with an email that has, rewards for everybody, free, something discounted, and for everyone, and then a bigger prize for somebody. So just my token of gratitude that you guys took the time to come out and listen to me chat through this stuff today. Because, I'm hoping we can keep growing this year after year here and keep getting the information out. So best thing you guys could do, you don't have to go buy any of my shit. Just tell more people about the remaining events and let them know that it was actually useful and real advice, because I just want to get it out to more people.
And speaking of remaining events, y'all, we got 3 more episodes left. So, next month, May 21st, which is the 4th Thursday, because we do these on the 4th Thursday of every month, from now until July, we're going to talk about primary applications. What they are, why they're important, how this differentiates from a personal statement, and also from a secondary app, and the do's and don'ts. Yes, med school applications involve a lot of writing, and yes, that is a core competency of, per the AMC's website, is showing you're a strong written communicator. So we're going to get very good at writing together.
Oh, yeah.
So be prepared.
Event survey in the chat. I just remembered. Don't leave yet, please.
Oh,
Event survey. So people don't get mad at me. The people who do the background work and are like, well, how good did your event go? And I'm like, I think it went pretty well. And they're like, data? Student feedback?
Source?
And I'm like, oh.
Source?
Right. Like I said, guys, one of those things about, getting a little better year after year is like, right, real companies send like the post-event survey stuff and get your feedback so they can do even better next time. So if you could please fill that out, it only takes a minute. Let us know what you liked. You can let us know what you didn't like. I promise I will only cry a little bit, and then I will bring myself together and figure out how to adapt and do better, just like you guys are going to do with your struggles. So let us know. That way we can make these remaining ones even better for you and come back next year even stronger than this year. I mean, you think we had these spiffy backgrounds last year? Psh, no way.
These are new.
This is 2026 right here. So yeah, help us, get our shit together even more by 2027, and you'll be helping out those to come. So thank you again. Hope we can see you guys next month, and please let us know your thoughts.
Have a good night, y'all. I'll see you May 21st.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yep.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I know that it's being recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Is it being recorded for you guys, or is there a way we can also receive?
I do intend to post the recording.
Okay,
That's my homework. I will be putting a YouTube video up of it, and I will be linking to it on the website, the same page for like the ddqxlearning.org/white-coat-bound. Same one that the registration was at, and I throw some like event summaries. I'll link out to the videos on that same page.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
You betcha.
Have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, and thank you all one last time. Have a great evening.